I'm an alcoholic named Ron. I wish I was there with you guys. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. 14 minutes and 50 seconds. Here we go. I got a sobriety date. It's June 20th, 2008, and God willing, this Sunday I'll take a 13-year chip. The thing that I like to say when that sort of stuff happens, happy birthday to the bride. I love AA birthdays. To me, I just said this the other night. To me, my AA birthday is probably more important than my birthday, right? It's like something pretty special. And welcome to the new guys. I didn't catch your guys' names. I'm sorry. You guys are the reason we're here, right? So I got a sobriety date of June 20th, 2008, and I have a sponsor who has a sponsor, and I sponsor guys, and I'm super grateful for this thing. I don't have a lot of time to qualify with you guys, but I'll tell you this. I met criteria for this level of care when I was 17 years old, and then from 17 to 39, I came in and out of the program, and I would get some time, right? I had 2.5 years, and then I had 3 years twice, and then I had 5 years, and then I had 7 years, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with all that stuff. And I'll make short work of this. If you guys asked me 20 years ago when I walked into your room that you're sitting in right now, Ron, why do you think you're an alcoholic? And I would start telling you guys about arrests and all sorts of other really challenging, self-defeating behavior, right? And all kinds of stuff. And I thought that that's what made me an alcoholic. And as it turns out, that's just not true. So through a lot of really well-intentioned sponsors, guys that I know that they wanted to help me, and I know that I wanted help, but it wasn't working because I'm a real alcoholic. And hopefully you guys can identify with that. I'm the guy on page 21. There's all sorts of great reference in the first part of the literature about what the real alcoholic is. I have an utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or wish. And so I got the education. I finally found a man that could take me through this literature and show me precisely what was wrong with me, and it didn't have anything to do with my criminal behavior. You know what I'm saying? My sponsor, God bless him, right? Ron, why are you an alcoholic? Well, I just got out of jail again. He goes, that doesn't make you an alcoholic. That makes you a criminal, right? And so I got the education. I just want to touch this really quick before I get to the thing I wanted to talk about tonight. From the title page to page 45, and then you can add a couple of pages, probably page 52 if you want to see the bedevilments. And but from the title page to page 45. And then there's 10 pages in the doctor's opinion, right? So you have, let's say, 54 pages, give or take. And it's a great education designed to teach me what alcoholism is so that I can self-diagnose. So I'm here in a real pickle, and maybe you guys are in the same pickle. I have the only disease on the face of the planet that tells me I don't have it. Yet it must be self-diagnosed. And that's a real pickle, right? Nobody can tell me that I'm alcoholic. I have to find that out myself. And it's tough because the book asks me to fully concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic. But how are you going to fully concede or admit or use any one of those words if you don't know what it is? If I asked everyone in the room to just admit right now that you're a hemoglobin, given the right circumstances, you probably would, right? And that's what was going on with me in AA. And if I could have just gotten honest when I first started coming around here, I probably would have raised my hand and said, Ron, I have no idea what an alcoholic is, but I'm trying to get out of this court case, or I'm trying to get back into the house, or right? And because I didn't know what an alcoholic was. But step 1 says that I'm supposed to admit to it. So I just wanted to share that. And so here's how important step 1 is. 88 pages in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous gets us 11 steps. 55 of those pages are dedicated to step 1. How important is it, right? And so I finally found a sponsor that took me line by line through the work, and I'm super grateful for that man. He was very patient with me. And I'm from Orange County, California. I'm born and raised down here in the greater Newport, Huntington, Costa Mesa, Santa Ana. Really is really where I like to hang out area. And I come from a pretty awesome lineage now. And these guys, when I finally showed back up, June 20th, 2008, I was in bad shape. I wasn't speaking in whole sentences. I was speaking predominantly in sounds. Like literally, people would solicit some sort of response from me, and I would just answer with a sound, like whoop, or zzz, you know what I mean? Or like, hey, let's go down to and get some zzz, and then back to the zzz, right? And God bless the people that I thought could understand what I was saying. Made me feel at home. So I get through this great education in step 1, and really, I'm just going to kind of jump to it, you guys. My sponsor took me line by line through the book. There was a dictionary in the room, and I'm super arrogant about this literature, and I'll take full ownership of that. I'm trying to become less of a book thumper. Like, I try not to jump out of my seat anymore and all that stuff, but this stuff saved my life, man, and I get passionate about it. And so anyhow, we got through step 1, and basically what I did was I did everything that the book asked me to do. If it said pray, I prayed. If it said consider, I considered. If it said write, I wrote. And I got through all that stuff, right? Got through inventory, did exactly what the book said. I looked at the picture, you know what I'm saying? There's a picture, it looks like this. And on my first master list, I think I had 460 something first column items, and that yielded 388 amends, and I've made almost all of them. I come from a sponsorship lineage where we go back through the work over and over again. And I come from Dr. Bob's side of the lineage, right? And that's kind of can be a little bit of a debate in AA, 1 through 9 once, and live in 10, 11, and 12, or do you go back through the work over and over? I come from the side of the lineage that goes back through the work over and over. I'm currently on page 44 with my sponsor. We meet every Monday morning at 7 a.m. I'm actively sponsored, and God bless these guys. They were so patient. Anyhow, so my grand sponsor, rest in peace. My former grand sponsor was a guy named Joe Hawk. My great grand sponsor was a guy named Don Pritz, and these are all guys that you know were kind of, I guess, maybe became a little bit famous in an anonymous program, but they carried the message, and it saved my life. What I wanted to touch on tonight, a little bit with 6 or 7 minutes left here, is I wanted to talk about my experience with step 10 and 11. And usually when I do these sorts of things, I end up in a detailed talk about step 1 and the 3 parts of step 1. But I woke up this morning, I was like, what are you going to talk about today? And, you know, I'm asking God, you know, to direct my thinking and what I might talk about. And what came to mind this morning was 10 and 11. So here we are. I inventoried, I looked at all the stuff in step 6, I did the step 7th prayer, I made my list and I started knocking on doors, and then my sponsor took me to step 10 out of the big book, and in step 10 says that I'm supposed to continue to watch, and this is about watching for that stuff, selfish, dishonest, resentful, and afraid, and I do that as I move through my day. When I first started doing step 10, we keep track. I keep a little note thing in my pocket throughout the day, and when I see this stuff crop up, I make a little tick mark. So if I see fear or whatever I see, I just make a little tick mark, and I'm going to carry that into my nightly, right? And when I first started doing step 10, to call my sponsor, right, he wants to know how many times. And so the first few calls, I was like, 2 selfishes and 1 fear. And I thought I was killing the game. He hung up on me, right? He's like, call me tomorrow. I'm like, oh man, that must be bad, right? And so I go through about maybe 2 weeks or so, and one of those days comes. Those days. I think there was 21 tick marks in my boxes, right? So the total, and I call him and I'm like, it's like, how many times did you ask God to remove selfish, dishonest, resentful, and afraid? Today I'm not. 21 times, bro. And he's like, finally, right? And it's so amazing how my alcoholic mind says, the less on the paper, the better off I am. But isn't it really just interesting that this freaking program is so counterintuitive? It's like the more I can see, the safer I am, right? And so I started to, and it was like that all through the work, surrender to win, all through the work. But this stuff especially. So I'm starting to see this stuff, and my sponsor explained to me, he's like, what we're going for in step 10, as I move through the day, it's not about how many, a lot, or a little. It's about the function of minus. Right? So if I see selfish, dishonest, resentful, and afraid 300 times today, and I ask God to remove it 300 times, what do I end up with? 0. That's what I'm trying to get to, right, with my step 10 work. So I go through my day. I have 10, 13, 18. I have 23 marks on my page, and I carry that into my nightly, right? And then it's interesting, I don't know if some of you guys are into specific instructions, and there's these questions, and it's these same questions. When we retire at night, were we selfish, dishonest, resentful, and afraid? This is where my opportunity is to take that stuff that happened today. It's in a prayerful way. God, please bring to mind, or God, please reveal to me what you would have me see. And I write a little bit on the resentment that cropped up, or the fear that cropped up. And I go through and I answer these questions. Do I owe an apology? Have I kept something to myself? Was I kind and loving towards all? And I answer that stuff, and I answer the questions in the nightly, right? And then upon awakening, I've got some stuff to do. From page 86, it says, let's think about 24 hours ahead. Let's consider the plans for the day, but don't start yet. Hold on, right? And then it says that I'm going to ask God that I might be divorced from self-pity motives, self-seeking motives, right? I'm going to go through this stuff. Then I'm going to consider I'm going to think about the 24 hours ahead and consider my plans for the day. And it's interesting, that's not my calendar itinerary for the day, right? I used to think, well, I'm going to work from 8 to 4, and then I'm going to get my hair cut, right? That Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't give a crap where you're getting your hair cut tomorrow. It doesn't, right? You know what it wants to know? My upon awakening wants to know the stuff that I discovered last night, right? Where was I selfish? Do I owe an apology? Was I acting like a jerk at work? Was I too serious when I should have been a little more funny? Was I too funny when I should have been a little more serious, right? I'm looking at all of this stuff, right? And and upon awakening, my grand space gets a little confusing. I'm going to think about the 24 hours and then what are my plans? Uh-oh. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. And then what are my plans? And so the way it was given to me is that in considering the 24 hours, it's how am I going to be, right? Am I going to, and the plans is what am I going to do? So how am I going to be might be more appropriate for a situation or whatever, right? A little more serious in my business meeting and a little less serious with my friends or whatever the case may be. And then the plans for the day are, I'm going to apologize to my secretary because I was a complete asshole. I'm going to, right? That's the stuff that I'm doing. And so AA lays out, and at the end of step 11, it says, I think something like, we alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the way we just outlined. So here's a method by which I live my life 24 hours a day. I have something to do in the morning. I move through my day looking, watching for selfish, dishonest, resentful, and afraid. I have a 4-step process. Ask God to remove it, call someone, make amends quickly, resolutely turn my thoughts to somebody I can help. I move through my day with that. I go to my nightly, and then I carry that nightly into the next morning. You know, it's interesting. Nowhere in the first 164 pages of this literature identified as the textbook part of Alcoholics Anonymous does it say one day at a time. I know that that's a great thing for a guy who's really struggling. The phenomenon of craving is on him, and you might ask him, can you just stay sober for 24 hours? But nowhere does it say one day at a time in this literature. I don't stay sober one day at a time. The guys that finally got a hold of me said, are you ready to quit drinking for good and for all? Right? And then I live my life in the way that 10 and 11 outlines, one day at a time, seeking God, asking God for help, and asking God to show me this stuff. And it's really an awesome way to live. And the results of that, I say this a lot, work 11 steps and try not to help people. It's impossible, right? The miracle happens, and then you have to tell as many people about it as you possibly can. So I went a little bit over my time, but that's what I got for you guys tonight. Thanks for letting me share, Chris.